right, Jason Bell's here with Dr. Brett. He is now a part of AGY. We're in the same building. This is so fantastic that we get to sit down and have these conversations to help our athletes. We're not going to prescribe anything in today's chit chat, but to give them some ideas of what may be going on when a young athlete comes to me and is like, I have got knee pain underneath my kneecap or on the front of my knee. I've heard it a lot lately, so I wanted to sit down with you and just, hey, what could be going on? So we kind of give the little menu of what might be going on, so the parents and the athlete can, check some boxes off. Okay, it's not this because of this, or hey, let's just go get it looked at to make sure we know what it is, so we can help these girls and guys, men and women, keep playing at the level they want to without knee pain. So to go to it's knee pain, right? I was at a training session a few weeks ago, and one girl came up to me, thank goodness. It was like right on the front of my knee, pointing basically at her patella. It was like the front of my knee has been hurting for a long time now. And then just like text message notifications, ding, 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 like another girl, me too, me too, me too, me too. And they're all just like looking at me like, what is it? It's like, well, geez, it could be so many things. We don't have the time. Our session starts in 2 minutes. We don't have the time, and I'm not going to diagnose anything at this point. So from your end, as a doctor of physical therapy, when an athlete comes to you with that knee pain, where's your head going? What are you looking for? What are you ruling for, ruling in, ruling out? Like, where are we at?
Yeah, so it's a very vague question, unfortunately. Unfortunately, when somebody comes up and they say, my knee hurts on the front, and it just kind of depends on a lot of different factors. It could be a multitude of things. Unfortunately, sometimes it's never very straightforward. It depends on where the pain is. So if it's kind of around that patellar area, some of the things I'm looking at, is it the patellar tendon, which is a tendinopathy or a tendinitis that we commonly refer to it as. See that a lot. See the basketball players, kickers, soccer players. It could be the kneecap itself. Sometimes it can get irritated. That's actually a joint in the knee. The knee is actually made up of about 3 joints, so that's one of the joints. That can get irritated as well. It could be the quad tendon, which is right on top where the quad connects to the kneecap, and that tendon can get irritated. It can be on the joint line right next to there. There's about 3 or 4 things in that area that it can be. So as soon as somebody walks in that door and says, my knee has been hurting, my biggest thing is, okay, is it on the front of the knee? Is it the side of the knee or the back of the knee? That's going to target, in my brain, all the structures around that area. So each area, I'm listing off 5 or 6 structures that could be, and I've got to test out all of those different things and say, yes, it's this, or no, it's not. I'm also going by their symptoms too. What kind of pain is it? Is it a dull pain? Is it an achy pain? Is it a sharp pain? Is it like shooting pain? Is it electrical? Is it numbness? Is it tingling? Is it, is there clicking? Is there popping? Does it buckle from underneath them? Those are all the things that we're looking for in somebody who comes in to say, my knee's been hurting. Because unfortunately, it's never just a straight, well, sometimes it is, but unfortunately, it's not always a straightforward of like, my knee hurts, it's this, and it's better. So.
Okay, so could it also be from the ankle or the hip?
Absolutely. So.
Or the core?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I would probably say, unless it's a contact injury, probably, I would say, in my personal opinion, 80% or greater is usually because of the ankle or the hip or the core. To me, the knee is what I call the follower of the body. So the knee never leads motion. So when people squat, and we all see it too, when the knees just go straight out in front of everybody, and they're all the way upright, and they're just squatting down all awkwardly, and it doesn't look like a normal squat. The knee, they're leading with the knee. And when I say that the knee's the follower of the body, if you turn your hip and rotate it in, your knee's going to rotate in. If you turn your hip and rotate out, your knee's going to rotate out. If you have your ankle and your ankle falls in, or you let it fall inward, your knee's going to fall inward. If you roll your ankle outward like a sprained ankle, your knee's going to rotate outward with it too. Your knee doesn't lead motion. The ankle and the hip lead the motion, and the knee always follows it. So anytime there's weakness in the hips, tightness in the hips, weakness in the ankle, or instability in the ankle, you can best believe that knee, that's when we see the knee kind of wobbling around when we do different exercises, playing sports, anything like that.
Yeah. So, a lot of these girls were in kind of that developmental age group, right? Where I think, most of them were 12 to 14, 15, if I'm guessing and remembering my ages right. And so like Osgood slaughters is a thing kind of in that age group, right?
It is. It depends on where the pain's at. So Osgood slaughters, especially in young women and young men, as they go through those big growth spurts, Osgood slaughters is really the patellar tendon is yanking on that bone. And so what happens is they're growing at a rate where their muscles are developing a lot faster than the bones are developing in density. And so as they get stronger so much faster with their muscles, their bones aren't keeping up. And that tendon, every time they kick or jump or do anything, that tendon yanks on that bone and can get really irritated, really painful. Their pain is going to be very specific. Their pain is going to be right there, right below the kneecap. And there's a little bumpy ridge right on the top of your shin, right below your knee. And that's where their pain is going to be. And sometimes you're going to see this developmental of this bump that's going to occur. And that's Osgood slaughters. And that's very common, more common in young men than it is young women, but it does occur in young women as well. But that's exactly where it's going to be. And it's because that developmental, they're in that developmental age of they're hitting these big growth spurts. And that's common with any kind of knee injuries too, especially in this age range of, young women, it's 12 to 14, 15, young men, it's that 14 to 17, 18 range.
Yeah. So my knee-jerk response, I guess, pun intended, talking about the knee, right? What immediately I want to say when an athlete comes to me in that age group, or all age groups really, is like, I've got pain in the front of the knee. What I want to blurt out is, well, you're weak and you're unstable, right? From where I'm at, especially in these young girls that I know. Most of them, as I've talked, hey, you got knee pain? Well, do you lift? Like, what's going on? Is my first response, and almost all of their responses are no. So I come at it from like, well, you're just weak and unstable. You need to develop your quad strength more so that you're not, running and putting so much force right in the front of the knee, like when we're decelerating, right? Because with soccer players, so much change of direction, right? And if we don't have that eccentric quad strength, I feel like we're just putting a bunch of pressure on the front of those knees, right? So then it's just an overuse injury at that point. Or their hips are unstable, like you said. When we've got those unstable hips, the knees are going all over the place. So from my end, that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Almost every time. At what point, if that's the free and easy way, air quoting for those who are listening, not watching, because they can do some strength stuff at home. They can get $2 bands and do some band work for their hips at home. Do we want to go doomsday when somebody says, "Oh, I've got knee pain"? Be like, "Oh, you have to see a physical therapist, right? You have to go to, like, there's something wrong with you," or like where, if you were in that moment, what would you say? Or if you're talking to a parent, just briefly, like, "Hey, my kid trains 4 days a week. They've got schoolwork. We leave town every weekend because we play at this high level that requires all this travel. I don't even know when we're going to be able to see you."
Yeah.
Right? Is it just something like, again, we're not prescribing, like, hey, this is what it is, but like, what would we say first to an athlete or parent that's kind of worried about, "Oh man, my daughter, I don't think she's faking it anymore." Because that's another thing that really frustrates me is, like, I think parents drag their feet, like, my kid's fine, they're just making it up, right? How do we have that conversation of, hey, like, try strength, or hey, we need to see you to rule out A, B, and C?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to, one, how long has the pain been going on? If it's been a long time, say months, or even a few weeks, and you've tried all the home remedy stuff like ice, Epsom salt baths. You can do home e-stim units. I mean, they sell them for $30 on Amazon. You know, if you try all those little simple
What about
things,
time away?
and that's
Rest
always
and
the big,
recovery.
But you and I both know that doesn't happen a lot, right?
Right.
Like you're saying, unfortunately, you're talking 3 to 4, 5 practices a week. Weekend tournaments that are traveling. In those tournaments, you're playing 3 to 4 games a weekend. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of this is coming into play. So the biggest thing I tell people is, how long has it been going? The biggest thing I ask is, how long has it been going on? Where the symptoms are, what type of symptoms are they? And those 3 things will, for me, determine, okay, do I need to see you? Do you need to come in? Let's take a look. If it's been going on a while, it's sharp pain, or it's been this really dull, achy pain, it's really limiting their play, it's limiting how they move, and they look funky, they run differently, they're cutting differently, they're losing power, anything like that, I'm having them saying, yeah, you need to stop, you need to come in, take a look, and then go from there. I love that you brought up the reduced activity portion. So, you know, when it comes to that knee pain, most of these are overuse injuries. I would say, yes, there is strength deficits, there's stability deficits, there's all those different things, but the amount of practice, the amount of play in competitions is too much most of the time. They're doing so much, and they're, again, doing these big developmental stages, and we're pushing their bodies so hard in the stage where they need rest and recovery, because if their body is going through these phases that they have to grow, they need rest to actually build and get stronger. And if they're not getting that rest, their body can't properly recover, their body can't properly grow and get stronger and be able to do these activities, from soccer to anything else, any other sports that they're playing to. Recovery is going to be huge for this age group.
So when the athlete potentially believes that rest and recovery will lose a starting position, or they are fearful that their coach or parent doesn't believe them, or the parent or coach doesn't believe them, what are potential outcomes with that knee pain if we don't rest, recover, or get stronger, or anything else?
Yeah, and that's the scary part, right? Is you don't want to lose your starting position. You want to keep playing, and you want to have potential to have a future playing soccer for a lot of these young women and men. Some of the biggest things are, one, that knee pain can get worse, right? You're going to compensate. You can do something to that knee. 2, you could have injury somewhere else. So with that knee pain, it's going to make you run differently. So if it's been going on for a long time, you're running differently, you're going to probably not be on that knee a lot. So you're going to spend all your time with your running gait. When we look at gait analysis, you're going to spend more time on the other leg. That can develop into an overuse injury of your other knee, other hip, other ankle, whatever it may be. Then what we can see is, now you've got 2 knees that hurt, or 1 knee and 1 hip, or 1 knee and 1 ankle, or both entire legs of every joint in the body. From hip, knee, ankles, we can see that a lot. We know research says this all the time. It's very common throughout that fatigue leads to injury. The higher amount of fatigue there is, the more likely there is to be an injury. We already know that female soccer players are more susceptible to ACL tears. So now you've got somebody who has knee pain. They're going to spend more time on the other limb. They're getting fatigued because they're not endurance. They don't have time to rest. They don't have time to recover. They're probably more susceptible to having an ACL tear of the opposite knee than probably anybody else. And so the biggest thing is, we need this time for them to rest, recover, to make sure that they can get stronger, because strength is so important. Even though it's an endurance sport and it's a lot of running, strength and stability is going to be key to, 1, decrease any type of risk or chance of having an ACL tear. Progressing what already hurts, we don't want it to hurt more, and we don't want it to lead to another injury, even in that same knee or in the opposite knee. So those are some of the big things that we're really, we really want to encourage them to have enough time to rest, have enough time to recover, work on strength, work on stability, work on endurance in the proper way, so we reduce these risks and all that.
Okay, so that was perfect world, right? Where we'll actually get these kids to take time off. But they're kids, man. Like, right? They love to play. I get it. We've been there.
Yep.
You know.
Oh yeah.
I I would play through any elbow pain that I had as a pitcher growing up, right? You just weren't gonna, I wasn't gonna miss the start. I wasn't not gonna play because my elbow hurt, right? So I get that as well. So if we've got an athlete that's just like, they're not even gonna tell their parents, they're not gonna tell their coach, they don't want to come out of the game because they just love playing so much. With that, do we just encourage them to improve strength so that they are as stable as can be around that joint, again, because it's the ankle and the hip and then the quads, not, we're not focusing right on the knee, but stabilizing as much as we can, and then try to convince them that they need to get more sleep, right? Because I think sleep quality and sleep deficits are huge in this age group as well. So, if we've got an athlete that's not going to take time off just because they love it, would you say that at least start there, get better sleep, get more sleep, and work on strength training? Is that like a fair place to start? Or
Absolutely, I think so. We know, especially even research, that this age range of these young teenagers coming into becoming teenagers and young men and women require a lot of sleep. We know the body heals and recovers during sleep. So if we're not getting sleep and we're not getting proper sleep, you're going to wake up groggy, fatigued already, and you're not going to be able to play at your best level. So sleep is huge. Sleep's massive. Anybody I work with, from an athlete to just somebody like their parents or somebody like their grandparents or anybody of any age group, the first thing we're always asking that first day is, how do you sleep? Or do you sleep well? Because if you don't, your recovery is not going to be as good as it can be.
Sleep's the best performance enhancing drug out there, buddy.
It's absolutely it is. You look at any athlete who doesn't get good sleep, they tend to not function and compete as well as somebody who sleeps well. It's huge. It's massive.
I think they did a study, I think it was UCLA basketball players, and they tracked field goal percentage. And I want to say something like 1 hour of sleep increased their team free throw percentage by like 30%.
It's amazing what it does.
Wow.
You go from a neuromuscular standpoint of how our brain controls our body. Our brain recovers during sleep. So it's not just our muscles and our joints, it's actually our brain and our nervous system too. That's recovering, and that's where anything we do to learn a new skill, like if you're playing soccer and you're dribbling and you're trying to dribble and you just can't get that dribble down, or the juggle, your brain is relearning things as you sleep. So your brain's working while you sleep. So that's why sleep's so important. It's also about how your body controls it too.
Yeah.
So it's great. I mean, we have a ton of research on that. Those same athletes who are, if they're not getting enough sleep, and they're not working on strength, one, we need proper sleep. Two, if you can get your strength up, getting your glutes stronger, your quads stronger, getting your balance better on each leg. Single leg balance and stability is going to be really big. Getting that better will help improve performance and decrease risk of injury, or maybe even help kind of start decreasing some of that pain too. And you and I have talked about this before, but proper nutrition is always a big thing too. Making sure if you're practicing 4 or 5 days a week, you're playing competition games all weekend, tournament weekends, you're playing 3 or 4 games then, if you're not getting enough energy from your food, you're already going to be fatigued then too. So again, fatigue based on sleep, food intake, recovery and rest, those are all huge things to really focus on.
Cool, man. Well, I promised you it'd be 20 minutes. We've got 1 minute left, so that's fantastic. I think at this point, if any athletes or parents listening to this, if you have questions, we're going to reach out to Brett and schedule an appointment with him, a consult to come in and just see. And same thing, if you're thinking strength might be the deficit that you need to look at, coming in, getting a consultation with us, we can look, off the field, what's going on, how's your stability, where's your strength at, and hopefully get rid of this knee pain, because playing in pain is, you can't play free when you're playing in pain. So Brett, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's do this again soon for these guys.
Absolutely.